Ruto came with a lot of promises.
You will be choosing a plan that will reduce the cost of living so that every citizen can afford a decent meal.
Of course, once he got into office, we saw a different Ruto. Your question is valid. What changes?
From Harambee
na serikali yetu tukufu Harambee
to Nyayo to free education.
Government will provide free secondary education from January 1st, the year 2008.
To the Big Four agenda and free laptops for children.
Within the first 100 days, we will put measures in place to ensure that all students joining Class 1 next year within the public school system receive a laptop.
Then we had Hustler Fund.
It is about the empowerment of Mama Mboga, the empowerment of the boda gentleman, the empowerment of the hustlers, the empowerment of the ordinary citizen.
These have been promises that former and current presidential candidates have been promising in their campaigns. And we want to look at the gaps and how they fall short in delivering this once they get into power. Welcome to the Political Oracle, a segment of the Talkchat podcast. My name is Jasmine Mumba, and with me here I have Dr. Michael Ndonye.
Asante sana, Jasmine. I'm doing well. How do you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Today we want to discuss about how there is a gap between presidential promises, the promises they make during campaigns, and the gap that is there once they come into power. So we want to look at how when President Ruto was campaigning, he talked about the bottom-up economy, how he would be empowering from the local Mama Mboga to the border rider. But we have seen complaints whereby there's the high cost of living, increased taxes, and the local Mwananchi that he promised to empower is actually facing a lot of challenges. So what do you think usually is the cause of this?
Sometimes we wonder, and it is not only President Ruto. I remember when President Kibaki came to power, as far as I am concerned, because at that time I was in high school, and I remember many millennials, it was their first time for us actually to experience how change in power can bring about hope. And Kibaki came with a lot of hope, and Kenyans were so much hopeful, and the expectations were very high. And then, of course, few years after he took power, there were a lot of broken promises, there were a lot of frustrations, corruption, scandals started coming up. There was a breakout of his cabinet, and he had to sack some people, and that is how actually ODM was formed. Now, come 2013, when Ruto came to power, there were also a lot of expectations, especially from the young people. And even standard one kids who were expecting computers and laptops. There were a lot of hopes. But over the years, by the time Uhuru was coming out of power after serving for 10 years, there was little actually for Kenyans to celebrate about. I don't know what happens, and now Ruto is here. As just you have said, Ruto came with a lot of promises, promising to revolutionize the way politics is done, calling it bottom up. And of course, once he got into office, we saw a different Ruto. And of course, your question is valid. What changes? Because it seems someone who is outside power, they can talk. But when they get in the office, they change. And whatever they promise, we don't see it being effected. Of course, this is not only with the president. Even in other positions, we see a very good person campaigning to be an MP, to be an MCA, to be a woman rep, to be a governor. And once they get into power, now you start hearing people complaining. And it seems that there is something that people are not able to see when they are outside power. I've done a lot of research, especially on presidential politics. And I remember one of the things we say is that there is the system. When you are in power, things do not work the way you think they are supposed to work when you are outside power. Because immediately you get to power, you realize power is not just something that you go talking about. It involves collaborations. It involves policies. It involves some unseen people, some unseen institutions who actually determine what to pass and what not to pass. So when you are outside power, it is easy to talk. You get to power, especially for a president, and you realize unless you are talking about, for example, the powers that you are given to just issue orders, there are many things that you cannot do without approvals. Yes. Approvals by parliament, approvals by other institutions. You have to follow policy, you have to follow some procedures, and it becomes hard. So if you overpromised before you get to power, immediately you get to power, people expect you to deliver as you promised. Then when you meet the reality, now you start recanting what you said. You either start apologizing or you start blaming some people. And I think that is the problem. Those who are planning to get to power, they need to study how the structures within the institutions work so that they don't promise things that are not within their mandate. Because even today you hear someone wants to be an MP and they are promising citizens things that even themselves they don't have control over when they get to power. Some of them is not their work. They can promise roads, we are going to build the schools, we are going to do this and this. When you are getting to power before you promise, make sure you understand what will fall within your power, what will require approval, what will require your own power, and what will require some approvals from other institutions. Because you cannot work in isolation when you are in power. You have to work with other people. And they have to determine. Some institutions are more powerful even than the president. Like we assume the courts, the judiciary has got independent power from the president. The president can do something and the courts can say no. We cannot accept that. And do you remember the 2024 finance bill? The courts had to turn it off. And you remember also the issue of BBI. So you can pass it in parliament, but there are other bodies that determine whether your word is going to pass or not. So it is not the power of will. That is, of course, one reason why they don't keep those promises. Some they don't keep because it is not within their control. And I think that's something we need to understand from that point.
Yeah, so the promises they make sometimes are beyond their jurisdiction.
Exactly.
Wakifika wanaona vitu kwa grounds ni different.
Wanakuta there are even cartels who prevent them from performing their works in the way they are supposed to. So there are informal and formal structures that limit their implementation of their promises. Yeah.
And do you think while these candidates are making these promises, they actually believe that they'll be able to deliver whatever they're promising, or is it just mostly political theatrics?
Okay, it is political theatrics in one side. It is not on the other side. For example, when President Ruto was coming to power, he promised to reduce the cost of living by a certain percentage. And I remember I did a column and I was asking the president, where will you get money to do all what you are promising Kenyans, yet you are saying you will reduce tax to some considerable rate? Because unless the government comes up with creative and innovative ways of generating revenue, the government gets money from the people. Let us be very clear on that. The government does not print its own money. It prints money from the people through taxes, through levies, through all those other deductions. And if someone is promising to build you highways, but at the same time they are promising to make sure you are not paying tax, that is a lie.
Yes.
It cannot work because we need money to build the highways. We need money to build the institutions. And that is why even this project they are calling the affordable housing project, they had to tax us. They had to have people pay because State House has no money unless Kenyans contribute that money towards the development of their own. So sometimes they lie. Of course, it was pleasing to Kenyans because he was speaking to the needs of many Kenyans. But it was a lie that you are going to bring about big development projects, big promises of how you are going to develop the country, yet you are telling them you are going to make sure they are not contributing anything into it. And I think the masses need to learn because the masses like lies. And also the politicians need to learn because they like to lie to Kenyans. And now there is a dilemma there. Mm-hmm. If you tell the citizen the truth, they will not elect you. Mm-hmm. If you give them sensational promises, you lie to them, you promise heaven while you cannot even take them to the moon. It becomes a problem. And I think that's a dilemma that democracies need to have an awakening of the mind. Can we demand the truth? Politicians, can they tell us the truth? And also the voters, can we be content with the truth so that it becomes a reality that this is the truth and we are electing this person because they have told us the truth. But when we like theatrics, then we are likely to end up with also theatrics. Because if you take garbage in, you will also take garbage out. Remember, there is a Kikuyu proverb that says, the power that takes a plane off is the same power that sustains it up there. And that is the thing. So we elected someone based on lies. They have to stay in power through lies. There is no going back about that. So if we demanded truth, we would be sustained through truth. And I think that is the issue. And it's not a problem which is unique to President Ruto. No, it is actually going to happen even with the future president. Unless we change the way we see politics and we do politics in Kenya. Yeah.
So they tell us what we want to hear.
Exactly. So what we want. So it is us who determine what we want to hear. Yeah.
And speaking of theatrics, looking back, which presidential candidates do you think came in with the most ambitional agendas and promises?
Okay. All of them, because as far as I can remember, I will not talk about President Moi because I was not there in 1978. But I was there in 2002 when President Moi was going out and Kibaki was coming in. Remember, I have said Kibaki's presidency came with a lot of hope. Kenyans had a lot of hope. He did not use many promises, of course, because it was a conclave of many politicians who wanted to take Kenya to another level. But we forgot that they were just coming from the previous regime. They were the same monkeys, but in a different forest. So when they came, it never took them long to start stealing, to start having some scandals. And of course, that ended. The 2007 was a sober moment. It wasn't a good moment when Kibaki came for the second time. But in 2013, there was a lot of theatrics, I can tell you. There were a lot of things, laptops, digital, analog. Some people were called analog, others described themselves as digital. We are bringing digital transformation. Of course, it happened. Because also, we need to understand there was no digitization of many government operations before 2013. In fact, it is true. The Uhuru Kenyatta government brought about digitization of government operations. We never used to have Huduma centers. By the way, we have to give credit where it is due. If you lost your ID before, you would go back to your village, go back to your chief, to your elder. They start signing. You go back to a primary school where you went, high school. It was a very hectic process. But I remember when Huduma centers were established, I lost an ID and I just went to Nakuru and I applied for an ID. Within a week, my ID was there. I did not have to go through hectic process. So the Uhuru government brought a lot of digitization and that kind of a thing. But it also failed in some promises. So there were expectations. And of course, now Ruto came, and I can say, as much as I am concerned, Ruto, of all the presidents, came with a lot of promises. He promised people heaven. Ruto promised people highways of gold. Actually, what he promised is not even what is promised by the book of Revelation in the Bible. He promised the majority of Kenyans, who are the mama boggers, who are actually of the lower tier in the society, a lot of things, that they will have the power. And that's why he was talking about the bottom up. Although Kenyans did not ask themselves, what is bottom up? Is it about production or it is about consumption? Is it about the bottom contributing towards the higher tier, or the resources will come the opposite? Remember, what we call devolution is top-bottom model. Because devolution means you are devolving power and resources from the central government down to the people. That was the chapter 11 of the Constitution. So it was top-down. But President Ruto was coming up with another economic model of bottom-up. Is it working?
Not really.
It is working. He said it's bottom-up. That means now the resources have to come from bottom up. People did not ask what was bottom up. They understood it as opposite. And I think that's the problem that we have. So it is working.
So it is working, but
they should keep quiet because bottom up is working. We are really paying the government.
It is working in a way contrasting to what we had actually been.
The expectation, but the meaning is there. Money has to get now from bottom
to the top.
To the top.
Yes.
As to where it is going now, that's another question. So bottom up is working. Yeah.
And speaking of bottom up working, how much of what is promised by these presidents can actually be attained, realistically speaking?
Nothing. And for me, I had a lot of reservations with what Kenyans were expecting from the bottom up. Of course, we need to also realize the president has 5 years. We will wait to see. Recently, the president said that the opposition had no plan better than his plan, which is true. And of course, I will always be hard to the opposition. What plan do they have? Ruto is very confident that they have no plan. He is promising us affordable houses, a very good model of Singapore. I don't know whether it is feasible in 2025. But he said, let us wait and see, because he has confirmed that he will be running for president and he will meet them at the podium to tell them what he will have done. So let us wait and see if he will have delivered. Well and good. But woe unto him if he will have nothing to show at the end of it. And he has had a lot of these things like SHA, and I can tell you, SHA is not working. And I think the government should just listen to the people who are going by that. I have information that as we speak now, the government has over 300% increase of claims by hospitals after NHIF was bungled. So SHA gave actually Kenyans and hospitals owners a chance to deceive the government. It was a project that was started, and I don't think they put up some good measures to make sure the project is tight. It cannot be cheated, because I think the SHA thing, they are cheating it. Someone told me that there are so many claims in government, people claiming money, claims from hospitals, that the government is now having all its people going to court, dealing with the cases. It's not that maybe the project was bad, but it was implemented without checks and balances to ensure the process and the structures and, of course, the infrastructure cannot be cheated, because Kenyans are very clever. Yes. Kenyans are always ahead. You implement a process. If you don't implement some ways of making sure there are checks and balances in that structure, you will be cheated. And you will be cheated legally. They will go to court. So the government has a lot to pay. And I think the CS for Health now, Duale, need to come out to Kenyans and tell us the difference between NHIF and SHA in terms of the costs. How much is the government spending through SHA? Is it less than what they used to pay when we had NHIF? If he tells us that, we will be able to be content. But I can assure you, SHA is expensive on us. Yes.
And in as much as most of these presidential candidates come in with good intentions while they're campaigning. Do you think that maybe there's some challenges that they face that bar them from actually accomplishing whatever they promised?
Of course, some challenges are internal, they are structural within the institution. Some are formal, others are informal. For example, structural challenges means you did some promises, you have come to power, and you are realizing, no, this is not as easy as I thought. This one has to go through processes. And sometimes that is why now you hear people complaining our president is actually trying to oversee some processes because they promised and they want to have their way when the structures in place and the policies talk about a different language. So one of the challenges, of course, is structural. Some are formal, and formal means there are those formal procedures that have to be followed in procurement of some things so that you are able to implement some policies. Then there are also informal, powerful things. We call them deep state. We call these cartels. People and institutions that control some processes, and without them, you will never govern in peace. And these are cartels that have been institutionalized in our administration such that kuang'oa ni ngumu, and they have money. They better sponsor even an impeachment movement. We have seen some governors in this country who refuse to bow to cartels being impeached and removed out of office. Yeah. So these are powerful institutions and powerful people. And those are informal structures that prevent the government or the president from performing their duty. And of course, for me, I usually say, when I studied and researched presidential politics for over 4 years, I was able to understand this is a systemic thing and it is not unique to Africa. It is there in the United States. Go and read a book called The Deep State, and you will understand why the power does not lie with the president and why the president is actually number 3 or 4 in terms of power in any state. So you think Ruto is powerful? No. Ruto has no power. If Ruto had the power, he would have actually implemented. As a human being, he would want to be truthful. And remember last week we recorded a video of who controls power. And we said, of all those people, we have the people who make power from the boardrooms. We have people who control power, not from the boardrooms, but from another position, because of their resources, because of their money, the power of their money. And we also have some international community who control power and they manipulate your president and the person you think is powerful through some other forces which were established at a time even when you are not born. Colonial structures that exist in democracies and especially in global south countries, those colonial powers still have a lot of control in the operations of any country and governance. And we cannot ignore them. So while we are talking and blaming President Ruto, we should make sure, Ruto is not a powerful person. Ruto is around number 3, number 4 in terms of power. And the determination of the direction the country is going to take. There are other powerful institutions.
And now that we've talked about these institutions and the deep state, to what extent do you think these ethnic inclinations and maybe political allies impact how a president will actually carry out his term?
Okay, the ethnic inclinations and political affiliations, those are two powerful considerations. We start by ethnic. Ethnicity is a mobilizing factor. And for a person to be elected in Kenya as a president, remember, you have 47 counties. The 47 counties implies different ethnicity. Actually, we have now over 50 ethnic groups in this country. How are you going to convince them that you as a person coming from one of them, that you are going to create an inclusive government whereby resources are going to be felt by all of them? While that is very tricky, they are actually the chosen 5 which have the majority. And remember, we also said the majority rules over the minority. So they sample the power And the powerful 5 actually sit on the other 45 because they are minority. So ethnicity is big. Political alliances now comes out of that because we have what we call the political kingpins. For example, Kalonzo Musyoka from Ukambani. It means he owes the Kamba votes. Kamba votes have how many counties? The Kitui County, the Makueni County, the Machakos County, and the part of Upper Eastern. So he has that as his ethnic vote. Now, we have Raila Odinga, who owns Nyanza. The 4 counties of Luo Nyanza and 2 counties of Kisii. Those are 6 counties, and then part of Western. We have people in Western, like Wetangula. People think that Mudavadi is senior to Wetangula. No. Wetangula comes from a bigger ethnic group among the Luya community. But also, those powers are being now dismantled. You go to Central and realize, as we speak now, Gachagua is talking about watu wa Murema, watu wangu. So what they will do at the end of it, they need to come together, form political alliances that will have a face-off and decide who is going to produce the president. So there is a lot of influence from ethnicity and also from the political alliances that they are going to form around that. And of course, in my study of presidential politics, that is what I called ethnopolitical oligarchs. They are ethnic, they are political, and they are oligarchs. Oligarchs comes from the word oligopoly in business, in economics. Oligopoly means a few companies coming together to dominate the market. Political oligarchs come together, a few ethnic groups to dominate and rule over other ethnic groups. And that is what we have with Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Luya, Luo, and Kamba. And I can assure you, these 5 tribes will continue sitting on other 45 tribes as long as they continue to be majority. Yeah.
Now, before we conclude, someone might argue that recently there's been this notion that there is no longer like division along tribal lines. Like recently there was this hashtag where people are saying we're all Kikuyus. There's been unity. So do you think that this might impact how the ethnic inclinations might affect our presidential issue?
I want to say something. When people say they are Kikuyus, and many political analysts will agree with me, and some have even expressed this. It means Kikuyus are powerful. Let me tell you, why are people saying we are all Kikuyus?
To show unity.
Have you heard them say we are all Giriamas? Okay. Why are they changing their names? And I will ask you this question because it has been asked by someone I know. Why are we changing our names to karaoke? Why are people not changing their names to Otieno? Why are people not changing their names to Halima? If you want to answer this question, ask yourself, why did we have to change our African names to English names? It's about the colonizer and the colonized mentality. Yes. The colonizer was powerful. That is why we had to change our names into the names to associate with the
English.
Immediately we start changing our names into Kikuyu. It means the Kikuyu tribe is now becoming like the most powerful tribe in this country, and we want to identify with him. I remember the one Abduba Dida changing his name. He started calling himself a Kikuyu name. Because his argument was, if you remember, Abduba Dida contested for presidency, I think twice, 2013 and 2017, if I'm not wrong. And Abduba Dida had to change his name to Kenothia, something like that, saying, if you don't have a Kikuyu name, you are not privileged. So for you to be privileged, you have to have a Kikuyu name. What does that mean? During colonial time, for you to be privileged, you had to have a baptismal name.
Yes.
So that you are called David. So that you are called Felix. Okay? So that you are called Emily. You are called Michael. the name that looks like theirs. It was a way of colonizing people by changing their name, changing their identity so that they can conform. What are we telling Kikuyus? We are telling Kikuyus, for us to be privileged in this country, we have to adopt their name. And that is a signal that Kikuyus are becoming powerful and they are going to be our colonizers. This is not my word because it's not a new theory. But that is the thing. So changing your name, of course, let them change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as we come to the conclusion of this session, do you believe that a good president is still possible?
Yeah, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I will never be optimistic about a good president. Because if we have to produce a good president, it begins with our mindset as voters. A good president is about perception. There is nothing like a good president. It's a perception. If we perceive someone will be good, they will be good. If we perceive someone will be bad, we will have a bad president. Presidency, especially in civilian governments, presidency and politics is about perception. So we can have a good president, but we cannot have a good president when we like lies. As long as the people want someone who is telling them what they want to hear, there will never be a good president. Yes.
Okay. So it begins with us. We determine.
It begins with the people. We are the ones who determine what we want to hear. And they will serve us what they think we want to hear. Why? Because we punish truth at the ballot. And we reward lies at the ballot. So what do you expect? So you cannot reward lies at the ballot and then expect truth in the administration. It cannot work. Yeah.
Someone cannot say that they will reduce cost of living but build roads.
Yes, it can't work.
Because the taxpayer's money is the one that will build the roads.
Exactly.
So we have come to the end of this session. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. You've heard from Daktari. We determine the kind of presidents that we elect into power. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.